Hi, welcome to Gabie's Knit Goodies podcast. Today is all about sweater number 20. It's a finished object video, so I'm going to tell you all of the details about how I knit it and about the pattern and about any differences that I made in mine. It is a pattern by My Favourite Things Knitwear, and the yarn is by me, Gabie's Knit Goodies, in white Swan, DK, merino nylon, held with kid mohair and silk in colorway Cloud. So it's a DK and a kid mohair and silk held together, and that makes kind of a worsted weight yarn. And the needle sizes are US 9, so nice and big, and a 7, US 7 for the ribbing. So about the sweater. Oh, before I go on, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram, and my yarn on Etsy at Gabie's Knit Goodies, and then my yarn has its own Instagram handle, GKG Yarn, where I just post lots of yarn pictures for fun. Anyways, a little bit about this sweater from the pattern itself. It says, sweater number 20 is an oversized cabled sweater. It has a boxy fit and dropped shoulders. The wide neck rib is a focal point of the sweater and makes for a unique feature. It is worked from the top down and requires minimal finishing. So a quick note, I knit the pattern totally as is. It comes in 3 sizes, 1, 2, and 3, and I knit size 1. The only modifications I made were right before the cuff. I did decreases so that it would be just a little more practical for me, so that the sleeves would not like hang over my hands. This way I can cuff them if I want. I made this plenty long so that I could fold it over and cuff it, or I could leave it straight, and it does easily come over my hands, but it doesn't just fall over my hands because I did decreases right here before I did the ribbing for the cuffs. And I also knit it about 1 inch shorter in the ribbing, the bottom. So this ribbing is not quite as long, and the entire length of the sweater is 1 inch shorter than the pattern itself. Before I get into those size details, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the construction of the sweater. It starts with the back here, and it starts with casting on for the neck, and then you increase as you go until you get to where you would split for your sleeves if you were doing it in the round. So you increase until it's wide enough, then you knit straight until this point right here. Then you put these stitches on hold, and you pick up stitches at that angle here that you where you had been increasing, and you knit each front section, and then you join the front sections where that v-neck, the bottom of the v-neck, and then you knit straight back and forth again until you reach the bottom of the armhole here. Then you join everything in the round and knit down and bind off. I believe you're supposed to bind off using an Italian bind off method. I believe. I did not do that. I was lacking patience at the time, so I just did a regular bind off. After you do that, you pick up stitches for your sleeves, and you knit your sleeves down, and it is just straight knitting for your sleeves. Of course, all the cables, but there's no decreases, I don't believe, in the sleeves themselves. That's why I ended up doing decreases right before the cuff. So you get a beautiful wide sleeve that is very fashionable. I think it's cute, just not as practical for my life. After you do that, you pick up stitches for the collar, which the collar, it is definitely a feature on this sweater, and I really love it. It has instructions for knitting a smaller, like a thinner collar, as well as this wide double knit one, or folded one. So like I said, you pick up stitches and you have a point where you're doing decreases here, And then you keep going and you knit, keep knitting the ribbing, and then you knit increases so that when you are done, you seam it, you fold it over and seam it, and it makes this very luxurious collar that's squishy, and I think it just looks really pretty. There's something about having a folded collar that just makes it not fancier, just nicer, more luxurious, more it looks more expensive. That's how I would say. It does feel like you're knitting a good bit on the collar, but it's totally worth it. Yes, I love this sweater. It took me over a year to knit this sweater, and that's because I had to focus on following the chart. The cables all crossed like at different points, and it was not memorizable at all, ever. I did make some mistakes. Some of them I left, some of them I didn't. So I could only knit on this when I had the energy to focus on it, as well as when I was at home. So I only knitted on it at home and when I had energy, which, if you know my life, is not super often to have both of those things at the same time. So it took me well over a year to finish this, and it is knit on size 9 needles, so you wouldn't think it would take that long, and it really shouldn't if I had been focusing, but I did a lot of other knitting in between. All that to be said, it was not a very difficult pattern by any means. You just had to follow the charts. So if you can do that when you're out and about, and then, it won't take that long. All right, let's talk a little bit about sizing. Like I said, it's a DK weight yarn held with a lace kid mohair and silk, and the main needles are a size 9, 5.5 millimeter, and then the ribbing needles are a size 7, 4.5 millimeter. The 3 sizes for the length from the back here, from the top all the way to the bottom of the hem in the back, it is a high-low hem. So it's shorter in the front than in the back, which I do like the extra length in the back a lot. But the 3 lengths are 23, 24, and 25 inches. Mine is 22 inches because I knit the ribbing a little bit shorter. And in centimeters, that's 58, 61, and 64 centimeters. The circumference, so the bust circumference, it has a pretty deep armhole in it, and it is a wide boxy fit. But the circumference of the sweater, it's a little difficult to measure because it is in cables, so it's stretchy, but mine measured right about 45 inches in circumference of the sweater, and it's not it's straight. It does not have any body shaping. So the pattern says that the 3 circumferences are 45.5, 49, and 53.5 inches. Yeah, like I said, mine was basically right on target for that, so my gauge was indeed matching up with the pattern gauge using the correct needle sizes. And in centimeters, that circumference is 116, 125, and 136. The gauge in the cabled pattern using size 9 needles is 21 stitches and 26 rows for 4 by 4 inch swatch, so 10 by 10 centimeter swatch. And I did indeed meet that after blocking. It does, before blocked, it's very squished, and I did not heavily block my sleeves. You can kind of see that it has less room between the cables as compared to the body, probably, because I did not want too balloony of sleeves. So I was very gentle, because you can always go back and block more, but sometimes sweaters don't necessarily just squish back in the same way. So it's very gentle, and I really like the fit. It's very you know, it's wide and boxy and fun, but it's very practical for me with the way the sleeves were made and my slight modification there at the cuff. Let's see. I think those are about all of the details. I will give you a close-up look at some of these cables if you'd like. And other than that, as you have seen, I tried it on and I've shown you guys it. I really like it, and it's I get compliments on it. So it has a big like braid cable, and it has little cables in between, and then just a crossover cable here, and then in the center it has two cables that meet, and then everything is reversed on the other side, so it is symmetrical, which sometimes patterns are not, and sometimes that's okay, and then sometimes it does bother me. And as you can tell, they are kind of different. They cross at different rates and are different widths. You might be able to tell this, but this one is actually a smaller width than this one over here. And then the sleeves are very similar in the cables that they use. Yes. And here is detailed, or a close-up look at this shoulder seam here. I guess it's called a seam. So like I said, you are in the back, you're increasing, and so you have a diagonal line here, and you pick up stitches. So it's not actually a seam, it is just where stitches are picked up to do the front side. And this is what mine looks like on the inside as well at that shoulder seam. It's pretty clean. And then the other part would be the neck. You can see here, this is where it was like seamed together after I finished the neck and folded it over. And that actually worked pretty well. And it's not like too, this is not bulky at all. The one part that is a tiny bit finicky is that point on the inside when you're folding it over. So you increase, you decrease, and then you increase so that you have a point. And my point was just not, it didn't feel quite as long as it should be, but it did indeed work out fine in the end. Just felt like I had to tug it a little bit. So I would recommend this pattern, and I really enjoy wearing it. I would recommend doing it in a plain solid color or else a tonal. I would not do anything with too much variation in it or too many speckles or something, because you're doing a lot of work with these cables and I'm spending a lot of time with your cables, and you don't want to hide them at all. And I would be worried, especially if you had like a variegated yarn with the mohair, it could make it blur out your cables a bit, and you want to let that work shine. So let me know if you knit this sweater and what your thoughts and opinions are on it. And I would not be scared of it. As long as you can read a chart and use a cable needle, you can totally do this sweater. So good luck and happy knitting. If you're ever wondering what 2 skeins of DK weight yarn can get you, I have caramel macchiato and Mexican hot chocolate, and I made a halibut hat by Caitlin Hunter and an August hat from Kelborn's Year of Hats. And I also added a brim to that hat as well. And then I have a little bit left over. So I might do a little tassel or something on one of these, or maybe a pom-pom.